Palate to Palate with Robert St. John and Wyatt Waters is made possible by a generous contribution from Sanderson Farms. Additional funding is provided by this and other public television stations and from viewers like you. Thank you.
There is a view that painting is this kind of thing that's just kind of boring and you just set up and, the studio. I work on location, things happen on location. So we were in Milan. I was by Duomo and the Galleria. We're in the square, the piazza there. And all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a painting and things are going really, really well. And the police come up, and now the police there, they carry these big automatic weapons.
It's forbidden to stay here with this one.
Okay. You said the police came up and they said, you can't do this, you can't paint here. Get the cameras out of here and go somewhere else.
So what'd you do?
I went somewhere else. He turned to me and he said, I said, where can I paint? And he said, oh, you can go over there. Just not over there or right over there, but right there. And so I went exactly where he told me to go.
I just got run off by the art police in front of Duomo. It happens, Working on locations has its challenges.
You got to do what the man with the machine gun
Yes.
tells you to do.
Sometimes situations choose the view.
I've painted here before and have not ever run into any problems, but today is different. So I'll start looking around and find something else to paint.
If you want two Americans who love Italy, we're your guys.
I really fell in love with Italy before I even went there, just through the paintings I studied.
Neither one of us are Italian experts. We mangle the language almost in every sentence. But we love this place. Turning people on to the food, to the culture, to the art, and just the entire experience.
It's a great place.
We're still learning about Italy.
It's great to watch people experience this.
We went over there and we fell in love with it. And we love sharing it with other people. We hit Venice for a few days, then we go to Bologna for a couple of days, and we bus up. Now, typically, when we're in Tuscany, we're in vans and small buses, and we're moving around at about 30 minutes a clip, no longer than 45 minutes at a time, through the Tuscan countryside. This day, we're heading later in the day from Bologna to Milan, and it's a beautiful drive, and we timed it really to where we got to Milan as the sun started to set, and we were in the perfect hotel. And then we met our friends Barbara and Alberto. We're going to 3 places we've been to, and another one we have not been to, which is tonight, and it's right by Barbara's house. She says it is very typical Milanese cuisine.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Barbara chose the menu tonight, so we're on this trip. The thing you look for when you go to Italy and when you travel is you want to be in the city center. That's the key. So you look for a hotel right there in the city center, and I made the mistake early on when I first started traveling to Europe, and I would find somewhere and it would be kind of on the outskirts, and there's no way. Europe is so walkable and Italy is so walkable, and you need to be in the city center. This hotel in Milan, we were directly behind the Duomo. Perfect location. And so we got there, we checked in. It was a great hotel. Milan is magical at Christmas. It really, really is. But here's the thing, our reservations are pretty close. And we're here for 3 nights. One of the greatest experiences we've had in Italy weren't the cathedrals and the museums and the beautiful scenery, but they are the people we met. We were in Tuscany in 2011 on the original trip when we were working on our book, An Italian Palate. It was you and me and my wife and 2 kids. And so we went to this dinner way out in the middle of nowhere, and they had a live band, which we don't see a lot of over there. And the live band, I'm gonna tell you haven't lived until you've heard a British cover band sing American rock and roll in Italian. And so we're sitting there listening to Sweet Home Alabama, and these 2 people across from us, there was a lady named Barbara, very cosmopolitan pharmacist from Milan. Her husband, Alberto, who's a journalist
Yes, great
for the
journalist.
largest newspaper in Italy. And we just hit it off. I mean, it was one of those situations where we hit it off instantly. We became fast friends. We drove back up to Milan a few weeks later, stayed with them, and they've just always gone out of their way. And on this trip, when we took a group over, they were a huge help.
Makes a difference.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And usually I really know where I want to take people to eat and where we want to go. This time, especially for two of the meals, we put our culinary fate in Alberto's hands, and he delivered. And so tonight, this is 100% Milan, is what you're getting. And we're on the streets.
Story of Mississippi, of the food, the music. Everything starts from Mississippi, comes from Mississippi. The blues, exactly.
He's done well for a young fella. So typically I'm choosing the restaurants, and I know where I want to take people to go. In Milan, Alberto hooked us up with this great place,
Polenta Italian grits.
Taverna del Borgo Antico. And it's a place I would pass 99 times out of 100, because I'm gonna tell you, it really looked like a tourist place. And I'm good at spotting a tourist restaurant from a mile off. And we stay away. We only do what the locals do. But Alberto, you gotta trust him. The cool thing about it, it made one of my top meals of the year, this place, and it was one dish. And everybody thought it was lasagna, but it wasn't. But they call it just Parmigiana. And we would call it eggplant Parmesan, because it was not pasta. It was not layers of pasta. It was layers of, I'm on the thinnest sliced eggplant, and they took it and sprinkled a little salt on there and sweated it out a little bit, and then just layered and layered and layered it with excellent mozzarella cheese and a little bit of tomato. And it was a dish that was awesome.
Oh my Lord!
Look, that's veal. That's a veal cutlet.
That's a whole
huge.
veal cow.
Y'all, this is what's coming. This is your veal cutlet.
You enjoyed that stuff.
I loved it. I loved it. Oh, it's so good. That's really good. Is it good?
Good.
Buono, buono, buono. In italiano si dice buono.
We had an amazing dinner with about 12 courses and huge, and the absolute biggest veal cutlet. I mean, bigger than my head, and that's big. But just a great day, and then we just walked down Monte Napoleone, which is this great exclusive street, and we're headed back to the hotel. A full day on the Italian Palate road trip, but a good one.
So the next day we had a free day, and our guests were shopping. You were out painting. Barbara and Alberto were with us, and they said, "Where do you want to eat?" And I said, "You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I want to go back to where we ate dinner last night," and we did.
You had a great lunch. I'm so happy to hear that everything went just perfect. Sometimes perfect doesn't work that way in art. You have to take what you get. And I had a great painting going. So I'll brace my hand a little bit. I was by Duomo and the Galleria. We're in the square, the piazza there, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a painting and things are going really, really well. And the police come up, and now the police there, they carry these big automatic weapons.
Of course. It's forbidden to stay here with this one.
Okay. But I was diverted by the police. You said the police came up and they said, "You can't do this. You can't paint here. Get the cameras out of here and go somewhere else."
So what'd you do?
I went somewhere else. He turned to me and he said, I said, "Where can I paint?" And he said, "Oh, you can go over there. Just not over there or right over there, but right there." And so I went exactly where he told me to go.
Just got run off by the art police. I've painted here before and have not ever run into any problems. but today is different. So, so I'll start looking around and find something else to paint. Which, you know, I didn't know.
Well, I started working on the painting and they asked me to move, and of course I did move, but I found a good view from where I could paint legally. I could legally paint there.
I'll be in good shape. I'll make this work. I'm that kind of guy. Creating pattern out of detail is a real challenge. It can be real effective though if you can do it, if you can pull it off. There is a pattern there. And even if there wasn't a pattern, we'd put one there because we're people and that's what we do. We find shapes everywhere.
As happens when you paint outside, you meet a lot of people. And a guy came up who was an older fellow who was an artist, and we had a really nice conversation and a kind of a cultural exchange during the painting. So those things are things you can't anticipate, they just happen.
You meet people when you're painting on the street all of the time, and you make a lot of times instant friendships.
This was a great guy too. You could tell he was a really good painter.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, Bella, good, Bellissimo.
I mean, we had broken languages between us, but we still had that one thing that's at the centerpiece of every communication, which is that you want to understand each other. Mm-hmm. And we had that. And that people are people everywhere you go.
Nice, nice, yeah.
I just look at it and I see, trying to evaluate how it looks, if there's anything I can do to fix this. You got to be careful about fixing though, because fixing, you can get kind of too crazy with fixing and you ruin the great mistakes that happen along the way. A good watercolor is like a lot of accidents that happened. I guess Robert Henry said something like that. But you've got to remember that you're not controlling this. You're riding it like a horse. You're not driving the painting, you are riding the painting. So I'm going to listen to a whole lot of what's happened here already. I'm going to put a little bit more detail in with a long rigger brush, and then I'll be through.
Knowing you and watching you work for the past 2 decades, I know you deal with a lot of the elements. Here in Mississippi, it's usually heat and humidity that you're dealing with. In Milan in December, it's cold.
It's very cold.
And so, you know, I know that kind of, those kind of challenges, does it change the way you paint or the experience overall?
It does. First of all, I had to start and that much time was gone. I had to restart a second painting, shuffle my head a little bit and get straight and start going. But really the cold makes things work differently. The paint doesn't dry as quickly. Your fingers don't move as easily. And those things do enter into it. In watercolor, there are days when it freezes. There are days that it just evaporates as soon as you put it on paper. This was one of those days that was almost freezing. It wasn't freezing, but it was very, very cold.
So your hands get, you know, when you're like 82 years old and decrepit, that's what happens. So
I'm just painting with them.
So what happened earlier? Wyatt was painting out here, and the popo got him and made him move over here.
Oh. That was a start, but you know,
as far as he got.
We didn't get finished. Painting is like mass hallucination hypnosis. You're trying to convince people that these shapes are something when they're really just shapes. We met a watercolorist today here. We're now friends. So good. Very good. You never know who you're going to meet.
It was cold out there, and I know your hands were cold, and because you don't have fingers in your gloves. But we ended up going to Peck for lunch, and Peck is one of my favorite markets in all of, not only Italy, but really in all of Europe. This place in Milan is world class. The selections of cheeses, the selections of meats, all the wines, everything they have there is just different, and you can eat there. And it was one of the most formal, elegant, and fancy meals that we had on the entire trip.
I would say it was impeccable.
Cut to the Robert's laughing take. Cut to the Robert laugh take. That's what half this show is, me laughing at Wyatt.
This is good.
Early on, when we started doing these tours, I made a huge mistake and didn't include time for people to shop. And we learned quickly, people want to shop. And so we started adding in an hour or two here or there, wherever we are, Florence or Venice. The thing about Milan, and especially Milan in December around Christmas time, is it is a shopping mecca. You and I aren't real big shoppers, but our guests and people that travel with us love it. And if you're going to shop, that is the place. It's the Paris of Italy. And Monte Napoleone is the street. It's where all the boutiques are. And so then there's the Galleria that's a shopping center built for a king, and it's fit for a king, and it's world-class shopping. It's very interesting, and our friend Alberto first turned us on to Cava, which is a 200-year-old bakery, pastry shop, coffee shop. You did a great painting in there.
Celebrities go there. Yeah. It's just a really cool place.
And ends up, Prada tried to buy it. Well, they wouldn't sell it. And so Prada ended up going and buying another old pastry shop, Marchesi, and built one right across the street, right there. And that place is even nicer than the other. And I think Gucci ended up buying the other one. So you've got these Italian designers. The guys are in Prada outfits, and they're serving on silver trays, and they do these world-class pastries.
Oh, wow. That's great.
The place is just unbelievable.
What I really like is we get to do all these things because you cook and I paint, which is, I mean, usually that's the reason you don't go places is because you paint. We get to combine all these things and have a good time and hang out with friends like Alberto and Barbara who are from Milan, who show us around. Just as much as any guide in a real personal way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're just blessed. In the Galleria, right there in the center, there is this strange kind of tradition where there are bull, and you're supposed to spin on the bulls.
You get luck or money or love. Of course, that's all there is. Luck, money, or love. I don't know. One of those.
But you spun.
I did. So I mean, the luck
on the bulls.
Yes.
So that's the deal. You spin on the orbs, the bullish orbs, and 3 times around, right? And you get good luck.
Yes.
So did it work?
I had a ball. Sometimes you gotta walk a long way, you gotta drive a long way, you get lost, you have to get directions. This time I walk right outside the hotel and there I am, there it is, and that becomes the subject. I paint the fountain.
And that's the thing about, especially in Milan, you can probably walk 20 feet and there's something for you to paint.
Yeah, it's what a mosquito in a nudist colony. Many choices, many.
We've got an interesting effect here with the water. You don't want to play that up too much. It's a very subtle thing, the cascade of water. If you put too much of it, it looks bad. It doesn't really reflect your sea. If you don't do enough of it all, it doesn't really look like a fountain. We're always in the situation of how much, just enough.
When you're outside, people come up, it can be intimidating. I had a lot of students there and they did a great job. One of the things I like about combining travel with painting is even though you can take photos and take those home with you and look at them all the time, when you're painting on location like that, as difficult as it may be, it imprints in your head and you take a memory home with you. And everybody did a good job of that and I was proud of them, I was.
It's an entirely different experience.
Yes, yes it is. I love painting in urban settings because there's stuff all around you and really it forces you to become an editor as much as anything. There's no possible way you can paint everything. So what you do is you use elements of this, use elements of that, and you put it together in a way that's not like what you get in a pastoral or rural setting. You know, so it was really cool. I like painting fountains anyway because water is just an element that it eludes you. You can't really say what water is. You just have to look at it and respond to it.
It's like it's in your name or something.
Yeah. That's my name. Waters, watercolor. I guess it is.
I got one. So, of all the cathedrals in all of Europe, one of the, I would say, top three, at least to me, most impressive Duomos is the one in Milan. That cathedral in Milan is so majestic. 3,400 statues in and outside
that is amazing.
Of that cathedral. And you tell somebody that and they think you're exaggerating. There's really 3,400 statues. It is so beautiful. It is so iconic. A lot of times you'll see a cathedral and this one looks a little like this one, it's kind of Gothic and it's this and that. In Milan, when you see a photograph of that cathedral, you know exactly where that is and where that square is, and the gallery is here and the cathedral's here, and it's just gorgeous.
It's more like a piece of sculpture that you're inside than a piece of architecture. It's certainly a combination of sculpture and architecture.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is art just piled into one, and we were blessed because our hotel was right there. I mean, directly behind it, and the painting you did was right outside the hotel. It's just, and it's like you say all the time, everywhere you turn. And whenever you get a chance, when you're traveling in Europe and you go to visit a cathedral, do your best to always, if they will let you, go up and get to the top to where the views in the city are magnificent from the top of the cathedral. Anywhere, anytime you can do that, you need to do that. I know I speak for you in how much Christmas means to us, and the childhood memories we always talk about, I write about, you paint them, and we just love that time of year for a lot of reasons. Family, friends, you know, the whole religious aspect of that, and to be in Milan at Christmas time,
that's unbelievable.
Just, it really amps it up to be in that beautiful place with friends and new friends, old friends, and to be in that architecture, in that place, and they really do it up for Christmas. And so when a day ends in a special place like that, it's just something different. So maybe you're in the beach and you see a sunset on the beach, and that leaves one kind of impression. But when you're in Milan at Christmas time and the lights go up at night, there's just really nothing like it.
I agree with that.
Many of the paintings seen on today's program, plus many others, are featured in the An Italian Palate cookbook. This beautiful volume also includes authentic Italian recipes. An Italian Palate cookbook. Palate to Palate with Robert St. John and Wyatt Waters is made possible by a generous contribution from Sanderson Farms. Additional funding is provided by this and other public television stations and from viewers like you. Thank you.